television for entertainment and development. This is the TED Channel.
My beloved friends and brethren in Christ, I will say again good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Where again these words of life program. Mga igalaw mga kaigsunan, may buntag na usab. Mayong hapon ug mayong gabi. I am very sorry. The first attempt of my live IPB was not only interrupted by very low internet, I think, or poor connection of our Wi-Fi. We are paying exactly what was needed or what is needed, but the service, I think, is very poor. Very poor. But anyway, I will try again. This will be another starting, and hopefully I can finish 1 hour. It stopped. I cannot do anything. I waited. It says trying to connect. Until it stopped. And that is it. I don't know if this will be played on TV, but in case it is played, please do not include the other one and do not include my introduction about how it happened. Just begin with my message. I think I had a good starting, and I cannot remember how I started. But anyway, this will be last of the series of lessons with our main title or subject, Grace Manifested, with the subject Christ's moments of agony, with the topic, Behold, the place where they laid him. Actually, it is dealing about the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And I can see here, Brother Michael held it, must have a message on my messenger. Yeah, we'll be talking about the resurrection. But before I will talk about the resurrection, which is the end of the agonizing moments of Jesus Christ, of his redemptive work or work of redemption, I will promise that the next lessons series, I will be dealing with the church, God, the church, and the government. I will try to, I'm not perfect, and I do not presume to much know better than you. We are just the same, studying the same Bible. I'll just deal with the church and the government in relation to God. Now, in the first century, when the church was established, I don't know what I was talking. In my first that was cut. I was saying that in the first century, although there was much persecution immediately after the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD, things that transpired were really done by the Jewish leaders or religious leaders of the day. The Roman Empire as an empire consists of many nations of different religious conviction. So there is freedom of religion under the Roman Empire. Or if not freedom, we can call it religious toleration. That although the Roman government does not like the religion of others, but they are tolerant. The government is tolerant. When Jesus was crucified, the government of Rome was just forced to condemn Jesus Christ to death. It was a verdict of a judge of the Roman government, a governor. But it was because of the clamor of the Jewish people, religious leaders of the day, at least the majority of them says, crucify him, crucify him. But there is no record that the Roman government as a government was against Jesus. Well, they hear the accusation that Jesus would like to replace the Caesar, the emperor, to let the government get angry of Jesus. In fact, when Apostle Paul was preaching, until almost about the destruction of Jerusalem, some says Paul died in 69 AD. It was in Rome that Paul was a prisoner. Because of false accusations against him, he did not resist. We must not resist the government. We must submit to the authorities. So Paul submitted himself. It was him, or Romans 13, concerning submission to authorities of the government. So he submitted. No resistance. But he was free and tolerated of his religious conviction. Actually, he was preaching even in Rome. He was a prisoner, but with freedom to gather people and preach. That is how the Roman Empire treated religious leaders or religious groups at the time. They have religious freedom, religious toleration. Now we are very happy in the Philippines and other parts of the world that there is really religious freedom, and therefore we will submit ourselves to government. Especially the ordinance of the government is in consonance with the ordinance of God, like this time of this COVID-19 problem. But time came after the destruction of Jerusalem that the emperor saw that it made happy the people of his empire when he executed some Christians. So the government decided they will persecute They will no longer tolerate Christianity in the empire. That's the beginning of the suffering of Christians being persecuted, but no resistance at all. They never made a movement of rebellion against the government. We will see that, we'll study that. On the record, they just ran and ran. And wherever they go, they worship God. They worship God. And there is a record that even in catacombs, they are there, gathering, or maybe one or two or three, worshiping God. Continued their religious rite, R-I-T-E, religious activities. They were in hiding. They are hiding. Some were killed, martyred. We will study about that. But that has no connection actually with this COVID-19 now, where the instruction is hide, stay in home. That is God's instruction and then implemented by the government. We must obey and submit. But we'll study about how the government persecuted the church. Now I will tell you, this is a not premillennial, a announcement that there is the spirit of lawlessness, the spirit of Antichrist working, even that on that day, according to John, especially when he wrote the book of Revelation. Meaning, there is an implication, and we can prove it biblically and historically, that the Babylon the Great is closely connected with the Roman Empire and the Roman Catholic Church. In fact, I have the book, Complete History of the Roman Catholic Church, and it says that the Roman Empire and Roman Catholic Church have different names, but referring to the same entity. We can take that up so that we will know why there is a government that is somewhat against the people of God. Not the other governments, just one government, and that one government will become a world influencing government, that there will be one world dictator. And it is coming to pass. There are signs. We will study that. But now I will deal with where the Lord lay. That's a great message, great sermon on Sundays. Today it is Sunday in my country, maybe Saturday night in other countries. But anyway, let us just consider that today is Sunday, the first day of the week. They call it Easter Sunday, mentioned once in the New Testament, in the book of Acts. Well, I think we will read so that I will not be confused. Chapter 12 of Acts, verses 1 to 5. Now about the time Herod the king stretched forth his hands to vex certain of the church. And he killed James, the brother of John, with a sword. And because he saw it pleased the Jews, he proceeded further to take Peter also. Then were the days of unleavened bread. And when he had apprehended him, he put him to prison and delivered him to 4 quartern quaternions of soldiers to keep him, intending after Easter to bring him forth to the people. Peter was kept in prison, but prayers was made without ceasing of the church unto him. So he's delivered, actually. Now, there is the mention of Easter. And today, we hear of some greetings, Happy Easter. Now we should explain, preachers and pastors, explain to the people that Easter is not a celebration of Christians. It was of the Passover celebration of the unleavened bread. You can read that celebration in Exodus chapter 12. Seven days of unleavened bread, and then Easter is the end of that. It was not even called Easter in Exodus. It just crept in the book of Acts. And there are records that some translators inserted that word in the King James Version. Easter. So it is not really of the original. But even granting that this is of the original, it is not a Christian feast or a Christian celebration. It was of the Jewish people. It just happened that Jesus arose from the dead on that day, first day of the week, which was Easter. And it was after the other Sunday, the prior Sunday, which was called by people today as Palm Sunday. Now, the Bible did not say Palm Sunday, but because that fell on Sunday, they just term it Palm Sunday. But this Palm Sunday and the Easter Sunday are really words used today because of the celebration of the Holy Week. But there is no such thing as celebration of a Holy Week in the Bible. Nothing. But I do not say it is wrong or it is bad. People like to do it. Let them do it. There is religious toleration, freedom. And then there are some Christians like me, not me, but Christians like members of the Church of Christ and preachers, who also somewhat like Christmas, they also try to celebrate the Holy Week in their own way. They have also Palm Sunday. They had Ash Wednesday maybe. And then they have this Easter Sunday, the day of Christ's resurrection. Well, that is their prerogative, if I am right with the statement. That is their freedom. No accusation, no condemnation, but I will not, of course, do commendation. Because as for me, it is not in the Bible. The happenings are there of the death of Jesus Christ until the day of his resurrection. It is there. But no command to celebrate anything about the events that took place from that so-called Palm Sunday to Easter Sunday. The only command for Christ, for remembrance of the death of Christ, meaning celebration of his death, is the communion, the Lord's Supper, the Holy Eucharist. is it. None other. But people are doing it. In fact, there are churches of Christ who are washing feet on Thursday. Last Thursday, they washed feet. But there is a wrong doing. Not really following what the Lord was doing. Jesus washed the feet of the disciples, but they did not wash his feet. And the disciples were not washing each other's feet. It was only Jesus Christ who washed their feet. And that is it. If the ritual will be followed today, to do it on a certain Thursday, like these days, Thursdays, then it is only the church leaders or elder or the preacher who will do it, wash the disciples' feet. Because washing of feet in the Old Testament down to the time of the New Testament is actually a habit, a custom of the Jews and early Christians. They wash the feet of the disciples when they are at home. But it was never done in an assembly. It just happened. Jesus did it on that, what they call the Thursday. They call it, what is that? Holy Thursday? I really forgot what the term is. But it's Thursday, washing of feet, and Thursday. They did it. They call it Monday, 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 Thursday. There is no and it was not announced by Jesus Christ. No announcement. They were just surprised. Why Christ did that? Even Peter was surprised. Meaning, when they were with Christ, from the time of the baptism of Jesus up to the time that, at the time, they had no washing of feet. Because it was just a custom, like a custom, a family custom. Was surprised. Why? Well, that is it. There was the pouring also of the ointment, perfume to Jesus Christ before that. Now, if the steps will be followed to celebrate the so-called Holy Week, follow it. There must be somebody who will act as Jesus Christ and pour ointment or perfume. By also one who will be represent as Mary. And then someone will act as Jesus Christ and will wash the feet of the disciples. But there is no announcement. Unlike today, they make announcement. Yeah, tomorrow we will prepare, we will be washing feet. There is no announcement. It was a surprise. So a church leader, a preacher can just call for a meeting, or maybe, because it was Thursday, it was not worship day. Call for a meeting, and then surprisingly, he will do washing the feet of the disciples. That's not a problem. It's not bad, it's not wrong, but to follow it as celebration of something, that is different thing. There is no command or example in the Bible of doing it. After Jesus died and ascended to heaven, the disciples of Jesus Christ, the last disciple died in 1960. There is no record that they were doing it. None at all. And then Easter Sunday, Jesus arose from the dead, the first day of the week. When Jesus died, he was buried in the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea, borrowed tomb. And then the women witnessed the burial. Then they went home to rest. It was the Sabbath. But early in the first day of the week, they went to the tomb and they brought some spices and ointments to anoint the dead body or whatever is the ritual. When they reached there, there is something that amazed them and they were astonished. The sepulchre, oh no, not the sepulchre, yeah, the sepulchre. The tomb, the grave was already opened. The stone was already rolled. While they were going to the grave, to the sepulchre, I think that is, they were already questioning as to who will roll the stone. And when they reached there, it was already rolled. Because Christ was arose early in the morning of the first day of the week, according to Mark 16, verse 9. So, it was the Easter of the Jewish feast. So, Christians, they call it Easter Sunday. And they have greetings, Happy Easter, because Christ was resurrected. Well, that is the right. Not biblical, of course. They're doing it. The Lord knows that it is to glorify and praise Him. Yeah. And I am happy. We are happy. Jesus died and arose from the dead. So when the women arrived at the tomb, the angel told them, well, you're here. He's no longer here. He's risen from the dead. You see the place where they laid him. So they saw Jesus is no longer there. No more. And they thought somebody stole the body of Jesus. And that was really prepared by the Pharisees and the religious leaders of the day. Because the Lord said that on the third day, He will rise from the dead after His crucifixion. Monday, one day. Friday, then Saturday, second day. And on the third day, He arose from the dead. So they said, we will seal it. And there must be guards who will guard it until the first day of the week. So he cannot get out. And if it happens that he is no longer in the grave, we will prepare this. We will tell people that somebody got his body from the grave. It was really pre-planned and arranged. Okay. But anyway, the women were frustrated of their purpose by anointing the body of Jesus. They were questioning who will roll the stone out so we can anoint the body with spices and ointment. No need of rolling, but no need of the spices, no need of the ointment. Why? Because Jesus already arose from the dead. Joy in the heart of the disciples. But at first there was questioning and there was unbelief in their hearts. But the angel told the women, and especially Mary Magdalene, Mary, you tell his disciples that he is risen and that he will go before them in Galilee. Well, remember, my friends, my brothers and sisters, that there was appointment of Jesus Christ before his arrest, or even before his prayer at Gethsemane, or before he was the disciples' faith, or before he was anointed with that oil, with that, what is this, ointment, perfume of the woman named Mary, the sister of Lazarus. He told them, I will be arrested. I will be killed. But after 3 days, on the third day, he said, on the third day, I will rise up, I'll be risen, and then I will see you at Galilee. Well, that is what the Lord said. I will see you at Galilee. Now, appointment with the Lord. Let us make this story short because we heard many things about the resurrection. It was done. And for a record, that must be the first day of the week that Christ met with his disciples and must have partaken of the Lord's Supper, the communion. It was repeated when Thomas was already there, the second time, second Sunday, second first day of the week. And from that time, there was already observance of the partaking of bread, the Lord's Supper of communion, every time we meet on the first day of the week. There is record in the Bible. But we are not dealing with that. We are just talking about his resurrection. He really resurrected. Many proofs that he lived again. Now, how about this celebration today? Well, somebody will act as Christ. Maybe someone acted as Christ, washing the feet of some people. I don't know if there was one, or there is one of the Church of Christ who will act as Jesus Christ to wash the feet, the disciples' feet. If it is a ritual that is to follow, to repeat, to reenact what took place on the agonizing moments of Jesus Christ, then someone must act as Jesus Christ washing the disciples' feet. But I think no one. But there are those who will act as Jesus Christ and will also be crucified on the cross of Calvary. But no one will act for the two thieves. The thief on the cross, one on the left, the thieves left on the right. I did not hear that somebody acted as Demas, Dives, or Istas. Nobody. I don't know. Maybe I just miss it. But there are some who acted as Jesus Christ today. Yesterday, yeah, the other day, Friday. They also are nailed to the cross. Maybe not this time because of the COVID stay home command and ordinance. But there is. But after what I observed before, after that someone who acts as Jesus Christ crucified on the cross of Calvary, not really on Calvary, but in one of the mountains that they will select, that there is the journey of Jesus Christ going to Golgotha. After the crucifixion, meaning that Christ is already dead and be buried, well, the one who acts that Jesus Christ is also buried. And they say, buried also? Did he die really? The one who acted as Christ really died, and that is why he is buried? No. He is acting as if he were dead. Then he will act as if he is buried. How? Well, we'll go to a store and buy wine and intoxicating liquors and drink much. And he is buried with wine, drunk. That is those who are acting as Jesus Christ. And on the resurrection day, which really is now, early, meaning that people, the Roman Catholic Church, hopefully not one of the churches of Christ, will go to a certain place and to meet Jesus, who is resurrected from the dead. And I was observant before. I always observe, because I need to know something that was done. And in Cebu, I was thinking, in Cebu City, in Karkar particularly, that the man who acted as Jesus Christ being crucified and acted as Jesus Christ who died, I was thinking that the same man is acting as Jesus Christ who is resurrected. But it's different. It's no longer a human being, but a ceramic being. What? A bronze being. not a human being. It's an image, graven image. Might be bronze or ceramic. And they say it's the resurrected Christ. Actually, on a Friday, when they act the burial of Jesus Christ, the one in the coffin that you see is also a statue. Maybe a ceramic or a brick or a bronze. It is no longer a human person, no longer a being, but a thing. Engraven thing. Graven thing. And then on the resurrection, and they go and flock and see the resurrected Jesus, it is a ceramic or a bronze. A figure like a man. A graven image. Not resurrected. Lifeless. Lifeless. Cannot move its hands. Cannot move his feet. its feet, cannot open its mouth, cannot see, his eyes cannot. And they carry him on the shoulder. Oh, what a resurrected Christ! You see, it is not really Christ. It is a graven image. Now, if we will try to follow what they are doing, and you are a preacher of the Church of Christ, you can do it. How? You wash the feet of the apostles? Or of your company? You wash. Washing. And then follow the Christ. And they knew who was the feet, because Christ, who was the feet of the disciples, was the one who was whipped and tried and was brought to Golgotha to be crucified. So you, who was the feet of the disciples of your company, because it is really washing of feet of the disciples that happened. But not the disciples were washing the feet of Jesus, and they are not washing each other's feet at that moment. It was Jesus Christ alone who washed their feet. It was Jesus Christ alone who washed their feet. So, somebody who is acting as washing the feet is acting as Jesus Christ. And then, the same person must be the person that will act as being crucified, if he is to follow the passion of Jesus Christ. And then the same person will act as if he is buried. And the same person will act as if he is the resurrected Christ. I think that is better. If the Church of Christ will do it, a preacher will wash the feet of the disciples. Then that same preacher will act as Jesus Christ crucified. And that same preacher will act as Jesus Christ buried in tomb. And then that preacher will act as Jesus Christ risen from the dead. That would be better. If it is a Bible command and a Bible practice. But it is not. It just happened before historically. And the Bible says not to be repeated but done once. So what Jesus was doing on that day was to be done once until he resurrected from the dead. Once. He is not resurrected twice. Now, people listening to me today who are of the faith of the one really celebrating will notice that there is one who will act as Jesus Christ crucified, and that one will act as Jesus Christ buried. But on resurrection, he is no longer the person resurrected, because he is still asleep, drunk. Who is resurrected? A bronze, a metal, or a ceramic, a graven image. So you can see what the Bible says, the folly of idolatry. So even the celebration of the so-called Holy Week is patterned after idolatry. And some churches of Christ are doing it. Well, I don't know if they are celebrating it, but it might be they just want to remember. I am for one, would like to remember the events that took place surrounding the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Because it is a reminder that there is a Redeemer who died for us, who suffered for us. That is the grace of God manifested. But to do the same act that were done, repeating it as if it is a command or example in the Bible that we will do, there is none. There is no command to celebrate such Holy Week. There is no example that the early disciples celebrated it. Nothing. And my record shows that it was in the early 4th century, many hours, let us say hundreds of years after the church was established, that there was a celebration of so-called Holy Week by the Eastern Catholic Church. And it is followed by some Protestants, and it is also followed by some preachers of the Church of Christ, maybe for social reason or political reason, whatever. I participated once for social reason. I was with the Catholic Faith Defenders, and I was one of those who delivered a sermon or a message concerning the city palabras, the 7 last words. But there was no washing of faith. It must begin with the anointment of Jesus Christ by Mary of the ointment, and that must be preached. That must be included when we preach the gospel in all the world, Jesus said. What she did must be announced also. And we should do it. When we preach the gospel, Jesus died, and he was anointed with perfume, with ointment by Mary, the sister of Lazarus. Then there was the washing. Not all of them made the washing. Only Jesus Christ, the leader, washed their feet. And he told his apostles, you will be leaders, was also. Church members know, they just place their faith there, and then you as a preacher or an elder will wash their feet. But it should not be announced, because Jesus Christ never made announcement that there will be washing of feet. They were surprised. So the preacher or the elder who will do it today must do it by surprise, not announcement. Not announced, I mean. And then crucified. Then where he was laid, he is no longer there, because he is risen from the dead. And that was an appointment that they almost forgot. Our appointment today, of the first day of the week of partaking of the Lord's Supper, is actually an appointment of Jesus Christ at Galilee. Our dying with Jesus Christ, that's appointment at Gethsemane. But no celebration. No Easter Sunday. That is a Jewish celebration. It just happened that Christ resurrected on that day. They call it Easter Sunday. That is not Christian. That is Jewish. And Paul was talking to a Jewish audience when he wrote his epistle to the Galatians, chapter 4. He said, I am afraid. I labored on you in vain, because you still observe feast days. We observe days and months and years. Yeah, the Jewish people were observing, of course, the Passover feast, the feast of unleavened bread. They observe that. They are not observing the Palm Sunday. But they have an Easter Sunday, but they are not of the resurrection of Jesus. Their Easter Sunday was actually the end of their unleavened bread faced. But today, Christians are also, well, you know the story. There is the story of the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. It falls on that Easter Sunday of the Jewish people that Jesus arose from the dead. But it is not a Christian celebration, but a Jewish celebration. And if we call it Easter Sunday, it's all right. It's not a big deal. It will not make you holier, or it will not make you a less sinner, or a great sinner, or a great saint, or a less saint. Nothing, because it has nothing to do with yours and my salvation, because it is not a Bible command, and there is no example that the early disciples did it. Yeah. So, for those who are doing it, my Christian brothers and sisters, well, do not get upset with me. Do not get angry. I use the word anger. Do not get angry with me. I'm just telling you what is my view. The events of the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ that happened in history, the Bible says, does not need repetition. It is done once and for all. Once and for all means cannot be repeated. And then, I don't know, but reading the New Testament, the book of Acts, from the time Jesus ascended up to heaven, excuse me, after his resurrection, from the time of his resurrection to the time of his ascension, after his ascension, the disciples, the apostles, were still preaching on earth. And the last apostle died, according to history, in 96 AD. So it means 69 years after, or 66 years after the church was established. The book of Acts covers about that period. But in those 60 years, there is no apostolic example that they made celebration of a Holy Week. That they were remembering an Easter Sunday. That they were remembering a Palm Sunday. That they were doing a faith, washing of faith. None at all. It's better for that fasting, because there is example that they fasted before they started a mission. And that is what we are doing when we will go to open a certain mission. A preacher will fast so that the prayer will be very strong. Now, as far as the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, there are only two things that have connection with it. One is our baptism. We were baptized into his death. We are buried with him in baptism, and we are resurrected with him in baptism. And two, Lord's Supper. That we will remember his death, and then look forward for his coming by baptism, by Lord's Supper. The two ordinances, the same. That is connected with the death of Jesus Christ. No Holy Week celebration in the Bible. I can see it. Please tell me if there is. Because I don't know. And please tell me that Easter there in Acts chapter 12 is a Christian celebration. Because as far as I know, that is connected with the Passover celebration of the Jewish people, not Christians. It is just written by the historian Luke. But even in the original, Easter is not there. That just happened to be inserted by translators. But even if it is there, and the Jews called it Easter, it is not yours, not mine. It is the Jewish thing, not your thing, not my thing. Okay? That's as far as the resurrection of Christ is concerned. So today, people say, he is risen. Yesterday, he was in the grave. They call it Black Saturday. I don't know why they call Friday Good Friday. It's good to kill the Lord. Good Friday. They call it Good Friday. Monday, Thursday. Maybe Monday is also holy. Holy Thursday, in other terms, holy. Why? That Thursday is holy. Thing that Jesus Christ was praying at Gethsemane that night. Jesus Christ was the disciples' feet, and they call it Holy Thursday. Maybe it's holy because of that. But there is no good on Friday. Maybe good because of the purpose of his death. Well, I really don't know, and I really don't understand. But what I mean is, I can see it in the Bible, that there is such thing as Holy Thursday, or Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday, and Black Saturday, Easter Sunday, to be celebrated by Christians. There is none at all. In other words, no such thing as Holy Week celebration in the Bible. The Passion of Jesus Christ. Not to be celebrated. It was a matter of history that it happened, and it happened for you and for me. Just that. And then we will remember it by Lord's Supper. And we are connected with it when we submitted for baptism. Two, baptism and Lord's Supper will make us remember the death, the burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Not a Holy Week celebration, not a repetition of what took place at the time. It was once for all done by the Lord and cannot be repeated. Okay? I hope you got it. And if you happen to hear that first recording live, it's cut. Anyway, as I promised, I will begin the next day about God, the church, and the government. So that we will have an idea. But to use, of course, Acts chapter 5, verse 29, and Acts chapter 4, about we will obey God rather than men, and refer it to the government, is out of context, out of harmony of the Bible. No, never. Submission is the context of Romans 13. Because the government is implementing things that is good for you. It is the Lord's command to hide in houses, to stay home while the calamity or the plague or the pestilence is going on. That is the Lord's command, implemented by the government. So we're just following it. If you're not following it, it's all right. It's all right. No problem. Don't do it. Don't follow. Don't submit to the government. If you think it is good with God, but you think it is not good. So, I hope we learned something. That finished our lesson, main subject, grace manifested. And the agony of Jesus Christ ended at the cross. He died. And then resurrected, glorious, ascended up to heaven and seated at the right hand of the Majesty on high. That is Jesus Christ. Well, I hope we will accept the teachings of the Bible by heart. We will believe it. And if there are commands to be obeyed, like the commands in the gospel, for you to be saved and for me to be saved, let us obey it. If there are terms of pardon that the New Testament is teaching us, we do it. There's nothing lost. Jesus said, he that believeth and is baptized shall be saved, but he that believeth not shall be damned. That is Mark 16, 15 and 16. And then, Christ is the author of eternal salvation to all them that obey him. Hebrews chapter 5, verse 9. Because the one who obeys is humble, and God resisteth the proud, but bestowed grace on the humble, or bestows grace on the humble. Be humble and obey the Lord Jesus Christ, and there is assurance of salvation. Okay? Thank you very much for watching, listening, and maybe sharing. And God bless us all.
Television for entertainment and development. This is the 10 Channel.